The hotel entrance was already active when the principal stepped through the revolving doors. The opening vehicle had arrived 5 minutes earlier and was holding position just beyond the porte cochere. Two motorcycle officers assigned by the local police department were staged at the front of the convoy, engines idling, waiting for the signal to move. The lead agent glanced at his watch. On time, exactly where they needed to be. In executive protection, departures are measured in minutes. Arrivals are measured in variables. The driver stepped out, opened the rear passenger door, and waited. The principal paused for just a moment, taking in the atmosphere outside. Supporters wearing team colors streamed past the hotel entrance. Television crews interviewed fans on the opposite side of the street. A group of children waved flags at every passing vehicle that looked important enough to contain someone famous. The principal smiled. I've been to Olympics, G20 summits, Davos, but I've never seen anything quite like this. The lead agent closed the rear door behind him. You haven't seen anything yet. The convoy rolled away from the hotel. The opening vehicle moved first, followed by the principal's SUV, then the support vehicle carrying the remainder of the protection detail. The motorcycles eased into traffic, creating enough space to keep the convoy together without drawing unnecessary attention. This wasn't a police escort designed to clear entire roads. It was a traffic management escort. Enough to preserve momentum, enough to keep the operation moving. The advance agent's voice came over the encrypted radio. Advance to lead. Go ahead. Primary arrival gate remains open. VIP credential lane functioning normally. Current estimated arrival, 36 minutes. The lead agent looked at the dashboard clock. Perfect. The operation was running almost exactly according to the movement matrix built during the advance. That rarely happened. He allowed himself half a second to appreciate it. Then he looked back outside. Traffic was heavier than yesterday. Not unexpected. The city was awake now. Corporate buses, media vans, sponsor vehicles, police units, rideshare cars filled with supporters. Every lane carried purpose. Every driver believed they had somewhere important to be. The motorcycles guided the convoy through the first major intersection before falling back into formation. The principal watched the city through the window. Every few blocks he pointed something out. A massive flag hanging from a building, supporters dancing outside a cafe, a television studio broadcasting from a temporary platform. To him, the city felt alive. To the lead agent, it felt compressed. There is a difference. One sees opportunity and the other sees density. Neither perspective is wrong. They're simply looking at different missions. The radio came alive again. Advance to lead. Go ahead. We're beginning to see pedestrian overflow near the southern perimeter. Copy. Recommend remaining on current timeline. Understood. The lead agent made a small note in the margin of the movement package resting on his lap. Crowd density was increasing 20 minutes earlier than anticipated. Not a problem. Yet, just another variable. One more piece of information added to the picture. The convoy continued south. For a while, everything settled into rhythm. Drivers maintained spacing. Motorcycles floated ahead and back as needed. The principal answered emails on his phone. The lead agent watched reflections in storefront windows more than the storefronts themselves. Mirrors tell you things your eyes sometimes miss. A vehicle staying behind too long. Someone filming. A motorcycle weaving unpredictably. It had become instinct after years of doing advances and protective movements. You stop looking for threats. You start looking for things that don't belong. Nothing stood out. The city was simply doing what cities do before major sporting events. It was filling up. Halfway to the stadium, the convoy encountered the first slowdown. Nothing dramatic. Traffic simply lost its rhythm. Vehicles that had been moving steadily moments before now advanced one car length at a time. The opening vehicle reported reduced speed. The motorcycles moved forward to identify the cause. The lead agent wasn't concerned. Not yet. Congestion had been expected. The movement package already contained 15 minutes of buffer. Those buffers exist for a reason. The principal looked up from his phone. Everything okay? We're good, sir. And they were. For now. A minute later, the motorcycles returned. The lead officer pulled alongside the driver's window just long enough to communicate. More supporters than anticipated. One pedestrian crossing had become saturated, Traffic lights were no longer controlling the intersection. Police officers had taken over manually. Again, nothing unexpected, just slower. The convoy continued. The lead agent updated the ETA in his notebook. 42 minutes, still acceptable. He keyed the radio. Advance. Go ahead. Current ETA 42. Copy. Hospitality suite ready. Security screening unchanged. Simple and professional. No wasted words. That's how good radio discipline sounds. As they moved closer to the venue, the city gradually stopped feeling like a city. It became a river. Every street seemed to flow toward the same destination. People walked in groups, families, corporate guests wearing hospitality credentials around their necks. Supporters painted head to toe in national colors. Police officers stood almost every 100 yards. Mounted units worked the wider intersections. Helicopters circled lazily overhead. The principal watched quietly, then laughed. I don't think I've ever seen this many happy people. The lead agent smiled. Happiness is easier to manage than panic. He wasn't trying to be philosophical, just honest. Happy crowds usually move in one direction. Panicked crowds rarely do. The principal nodded. I hadn't thought about it like that. Another 10 minutes passed. Then the operation changed. Not suddenly, gradually, almost politely. The convoy reached a broad avenue leading toward the stadium and simply stopped, not completely. It rolled forward, stopped, moved another 20 feet, stopped again. The motorcycles were now several hundred yards ahead. The opening vehicle advised that the dedicated VIP lane remained open, but access to it had become restricted by volume. The lead agent leaned slightly forward. How long? The driver's answer was immediate. Hard to say. He hated those words. Hard to say. Protection teams like certainty. Traffic rarely provides it. Outside, supporters streamed past the stationary vehicles. Some were laughing, others singing. Many carried drinks. Children sat on their parents' shoulders waving scarves. It looked like a festival. It felt like one too. The principal lowered the window slightly. The sound rushed inside. Not noise, energy, pure energy. Thousands of conversations blending together. Music, laughter. The constant drone of horns and vuvuzelas. He watched people walking toward the stadium, then looked ahead at the line of stationary vehicles. They're definitely getting there before we are. Nobody answered immediately. The lead agent already knew what was happening. Not outside, inside the vehicle. He had seen this exact moment in different countries, different cities, different events, different principle, same thought process. The principal wasn't thinking about the operation anymore. He was thinking about the experience. He watched another group walk past the convoy, then smiled. You know, there it was, the beginning of the sentence. The lead agent almost finished it in his own mind. We could probably walk from here. Silence, not uncomfortable silence, professional silence. The driver kept looking forward. The follow vehicle remained exactly where it should. The radio stayed quiet. Everyone understood that the next 30 seconds mattered. The principal looked directly at the lead agent. What do you think? The lead agent didn't answer immediately. He never answered questions like that without information. He pressed the transmit button. Advance. Go ahead. If we transition to pedestrian movement from our current position, talk to me. There was a pause, and the advance agent wasn't guessing. He was looking. That's what made him valuable. When he finally spoke, his voice remained calm. It can be done. Another pause. Crowd density is increasing. A longer pause. You'll lose the sterile arrival corridor. The lead agent looked through the windshield again. Supporters continued flowing around the convoy. The stadium stood less than a mile away, visible, close enough to tempt anyone, far enough to change an operation completely. He asked one final question. If you were sitting where I am, the advance agent answered before the question was even finished. I'd make the walk now. The lead agent nodded to himself. That was enough. He closed the movement package resting on his lap. Months of planning, route studies, motorcade diagrams, arrival timings. Everything inside that binder had just become secondary to one decision made in a stationary vehicle. He looked at the principal. We can do it. The principal smiled immediately. I was hoping you'd say that. The lead agent smiled back, then reached for his radio. All stations? He waited just long enough for everyone to acknowledge. Prepare for change of movement. The operation was about to leave the protection of steel, glass, and horsepower, and enter the one environment no executive protection professional ever truly controls: people.